The sheer stupidity of the NAR settlement debacle. Wow, debacle. I feel like I should be wearing a monocle when I say that. The debacle of the century. It is just obnoxious, and I want to cover 3 points as to why. Number one, it targets poor people. It creates more tedious nonsense. Number three, it welcomes cheap asses. Poor people. First one. I just had to basically have a conversation with somebody that I was helping to find a $5,000 a month rental property. And this was their budget, and we couldn't come to terms because about, I don't know, 50 to 75% of the landlords and owners were not even describing commission or offering commission. So if I spent all this time and energy to help that person find up to $5,000 a month house or penthouse or whatever, condo, it wouldn't matter because the majority of the inventory available is people just not wanting to pay anything. So if I had to essentially, well, I don't know, I didn't directly say we're not going to work together. We both just kind of came to that agreement because, he had his own motivations where he wanted the seller to pay for everything, or the owner, the landlord. And that's justified because before this stupid settlement, that's what was normal. You got somebody bringing you a tenant, a buyer, you should be paying them something for that service. It shouldn't be like, oh, oh, oh my gosh, I gotta walk on eggshells to earn my living. That's what this has created. Now, how does that create a condition for targeting poor people? Well, I just had to decline this clearly high net worth individual. Well, we both declined from working together because my time is valuable. I can't just be spending time on stuff without having payment for it. I have very limited time in my schedule as it is. So, because I was not able to work with him, imagine how much more worse it is for anybody that has a lower price point. Like, let's say even 1,200 to 2,000 a month to work with. Like, nobody's going to want to work with him because the commission is going to be that much more lower. The risk of the sellers and landlords being cheaper are, they have it now in their arsenal to just be cheapos. So why not go for the norm, the new norm? So creates these buyer agent, tenant agents that just don't want to do that work because it's not worth it. Why are you going to work for $500? Because, by the way, that's kind of the average. 25% of like the first month's rent is one example. There could be other examples where it goes up and down, but that's kind of what I've seen before when it comes to residential. Of course, it's always different, right? But if you're talking about $2,000 and you're making $500 off of that, you really have to scale that sort of operation to make any ends meet, or you just decide this isn't worth my time. So it's not going to be worth it for most agents, I feel. Number two, it creates more tedious nonsense paperwork. I was in a class where they described this NAR settlement and all the different intricacies of the paperwork that you have to consider with this new nonsense. And it was like several pages that you have to, again, walk on eggshells around. And again, it's just already us as agents, as licensed agents, have so much to keep in mind. So you're just adding another just detour for no reason at all. It's not motivating. It's going to cause even more price increases or just create all sorts of, let's say, negative consequences. Who's going to want to work with a seller, especially that you have to contact to be like, hey, what are you paying here? No buyer agent is going to be asking for permission like a little boy or little girl, like, hey, could you give me a nickel? I am worth at least one nickel. Like, nobody's gonna be doing that. It's ridiculous. And so what you're gonna see is these sellers that are being cheapos are gonna not have as much movement because it's not worth it. Number three, natural transition. It welcomes cheap asses. So you, like a cheapo would be like, you mean to tell me I could save a couple cents even though I'm gonna make a lot of money anyways? Like that, there's gonna be people like that, and I've actually already come across them. Like people, like, of course they can be justified in, right? It's their decision, it's their property, but there's consequences to being cheap too. To not recognize a service that another person is providing is to just kind of kick them at the shin and be like, you're not worth anything. I could do this all on my own, even though it takes numerous dozens of hours to even become an agent, and there's all sorts of intricacies in the real estate world that the average person does not know. That's why agency even exists, so that we could represent your best interest, because you just don't know. There's at least, forget about past the previous 50 years. We're talking about thousands of years of law when it comes to private property that has culminated into the last 50 years. And there's all sorts of laws, regulations, exhibits, state records, title differences, title types. What else? Negotiations. Obviously, there's things that the average person does not know when it comes to negotiations. All these things, like, it's just, it makes me think of that phrase, like people that want to just go for free all the time will end up not having good results, because there's only so much that free will take you, right? There's, when you got somebody that's an expert in their field, they'll move things quickly along, versus just being like, I know what I'm doing, and I shall hold on and hoard to as much of my money as possible to make that the reality, not realizing that that could cause them to, an example of selling a property, sit on market for 3-6 months, and all that money they predicated on saving, they just lost in probably the first 1 or 2 months. So I'm going to get off my soapbox, even though there's no soap or any box below me right now. I'll catch you next video.